All right, guys, we are moving on to the top 25 for week 11, y'all, because it's polls. I do adore. Y'all, we about to get into this this poll talk because there's been some changes when it comes to the AP poll, the AP top 25 poll. Now, it makes sense that South Carolina was the unanimous number one pick for the top 25, of course, because they're the lone undefeated team. So that makes a lot of sense. We have Iowa that moved up to number 2. There was some talk about whether or not Iowa was going to move up to number 2 and whether or not they deserve it. I think they deserve it. I think they deserve being that number 2 spot. They did move up 1 from last week. Last week they were number 3, so moved up from 3 to 2. Colorado moved up 2 spots as well to number 3. NC State moved up as well. And the reason why all those teams moved up is because UCLA moved down. So UCLA is now in 5th place in the top 25. Now, I would say I could have had UCLA or USC in that fifth place spot. USC is in 6th place, followed by K-State, Stanford, UConn, and LSU, rounding out the top 10. Now, UConn, to me, that jump that they made was very, very well deserved. UConn has been playing very well as of late, and they're playing well without having a lot of players. Like this UConn team is very beleaguered in terms of injuries, and they're still finding a way to win. So shout out to UConn for doing that, because they're looking pretty good. LSU, I am actually surprised that they weren't dropped out of the top 10. Like I'm kind of surprised about that. They did move down 3 spots, but in general, I'm kind of surprised. Stanford did not move at all, which makes sense. We have Texas at number 11, followed by Baylor, Louisville, Virginia Tech, Florida State, Indiana, Gonzaga, Ohio State, Notre Dame, and Utah. Now, when it comes to Baylor, I would have dropped them down further. Yes, they did drop eight spots, which, is huge. But this is a team that lost their last 2 games. And they just look like a different team. This Baylor team looks like a different team than the team that beat Texas, a little bit over a week or so ago. So I wouldn't have been surprised if they would have dropped a little bit further. Louisville is just continuing to be, a team that is somewhat silent and just balling. Louisville in years past has gotten a lot of media attention, primarily because Haley Van Lith. And now that Haley Van Lith isn't there, it's like a lot of the attention has gone away from Louisville, but they're working hard. They're number 1 in their conference, and they're just balling, y'all. They're balling, and they're just slowly but surely moving up on that list. Gonzaga makes a lot of sense to me. Gonzaga is just fun. They're just a really fun team. Indiana moved down 2 spots, probably in response to that really bad Iowa game they had. Yes, Iowa is ranked number 2 now, but that was a terrible loss for Indiana. Utah went down only 1 spot. Not that surprised about that. And in 21, we have Creighton, 22, Marquette, 23, North Carolina, 24. Shout out to Iowa State, who just has cracked the top 25 one more time. Iowa State's a fun team. They really are a fun team. And if y'all haven't been watching Iowa State, they got some really, really good freshmen that y'all need to look out for. So. And we also have UNLV at number 25. All right, guys, that is the list. Other teams that received some votes was Oregon State, West Virginia, Syracuse, Vanderbilt, Princeton, who, yes, watch out for Princeton. Auburn, I'm pretty sure those 5 votes were just in response to Auburn beating LSU, which makes sense. We have Fairfield, who I have not watched a game of Fairfield this year, and Michigan State. West Virginia has dropped from the rankings. All right, guys, that is your top 25. I mean, what are your thoughts? I am not that surprised. by any of these moves. I don't hate any of these moves. Like I said, I think Baylor probably could have been a little bit lower. I also think that LSU probably could have been a little bit lower as well. But we'll continue to see movement on this top 25 list as conference play continues, because there's quite a lot of movement this week in comparison to the last couple of weeks. So we'll see what happens. But it's safe to say that this top 3 is very solid. South Carolina number 1, Iowa number 2, Colorado number 3. That feels like a really good top 3. It really does. Like I said earlier, I think that USC could have been number 5. Like I'm waffling between UCLA and USC, but because both of those teams, the only loss they had was to each other. So it's sort of like, okay, well, who do you put over the other? I might give USC the edge only because they beat UCLA without Rhea Marshall, which is huge, absolutely huge. And so, yeah, those are my thoughts about the top 25. I'm curious about what you all think about the top 25. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, because, we love us some polls. And right now, this doesn't mean that much, but as we get into later in the month, as we get into February, these polls are going to be so critical as we prepare for March Madness, because it's going to determine some rankings. So let me know your thoughts about where folks are ranked right now in the top 25.